90 24 hours a day. That's 1-800-305-3390.
This is CNN.
A new week and a new beginning for Wall Street. New York and the nation awake this morning to a changed economy. You're looking at a live picture of the New York Stock Exchange. The New York Stock Exchange and the Mercantile Exchange get ready to open. This is the longest time since the Great Depression that the American exchanges have halted trading. The opening bell will ring, followed by 2 minutes of silence at 9:30 Eastern Time. The New York Board of Trade at 4 World Trade Center was destroyed, but trading resumes today at a backup facility on Long Island. You're looking at ground zero now this morning, where the rescue operations continue. The number of missing at the World Trade Center is at 4,957, 190 confirmed dead, 115 identified, and the Pentagon death toll this morning rises to 188. The mayor of New York City cautioning everybody to view this as a rescue operation, and they will do so until all hope fades. Right now, you're going to look at some aerial views of the devastation surrounding what used to be the Twin Towers at the World Trade Center. I think this is the first time you can really get a perspective on how much damage has been done to the surrounding buildings. City officials tell us at least 100 buildings in that World Trade Center are either damaged or in some way structurally weakened. Good morning, everybody. I'm Paula Zahn reporting from New York City this morning. I have a very strong group of participants with me this morning. Some familiar faces to all of you. I'm joined now by John King in Washington. Good morning, John. Miles O'Brien at the CNN Center in Atlanta, and we keep on moving Bill Hemmer around this city of ours. He will be outside the New York Stock Exchange all morning long. Welcome to you all. Right now I'm going to catch up with Lou Dobbs, who will also join us consistently throughout the morning from the New York Stock Exchange. And Lou, if you could, give us a preview of what investors might expect later on this morning.
Paula, good morning. Investors don't really know what to expect, and the traders who will be peopling this floor at the New York Stock Exchange opened today after being closed for 4 straight sessions. And by the way, that hasn't happened since the Great Depression. People here are anxious. They are not particularly upset in any way, but they are anxious to see what the market will do, what investors ultimately will vote on, and with their dollars and with their stock purchases and sales. The stock exchange has gone to heroic lengths to open at all. And the fact of the matter is that they are remarkably well prepared. This floor is typically, and I'm between the trading posts where the specialists work and move stocks, 10 and 11. Normally, there would be no one on this floor until usually about 9 o'clock in the morning. We've been here since about 6:30 this morning when the Treasury Secretary, Paul O'Neill, arrived to meet with Dick Grasso, the chairman of the New York Exchange. So the anticipation, the preparation, all in place, and some anxiety as well.
So Lou, I know you are immersed in all the details of this, but for those of us who see that overseas markets have sounded an initial alarm and the Nikkei index hit an 18-year low this morning, how are we supposed to react to that news?
I think that we have to react to it today the same way we would on any other day. And as a matter of fact, that's one of the points that most of the heads of the major brokerages, Dick Grasso, the chairman, has said. This is not a place for heroics. This is not a place in which to look at anything other than this marketplace in a long-term manner, which is what investors should be doing on any day. Warren Buffett on 60 Minutes last night made what I thought was a great point. Fundamentally, this economy is not appreciably different than it was a week ago, and the CNN poll conducted yesterday shows that actually investor and consumer confidence is actually higher today than before the bombing. The fact that the Nikkei average fell 5% is at almost a 18-year low is really more indicative of what is happening with those markets than with this one. This market, the largest in the world, and why it was so important, so critical that this market be open, dwarfing as it does Tokyo, London, Frankfurt, all of the other world markets, those major markets combined, with some $13 trillion in market cap here.
All right, Lou, you mentioned those consumer confidence numbers, and yet there appears to be a very strong networking campaign, bringing together folks that normally are trying to compete with each other to prevent a sell-off today. Can you describe to us exactly what they're doing to prevent a sell-off?
Well, Paula, as you say, there are an interesting group of people who've come together, just as all the American people have come together in this time of crisis. But this crisis here on Wall Street will bring together the head of the SEC, the Treasury Secretary, in fact, the competing exchange, the NASDAQ. The CEO of the NASDAQ, Wick Simmons, will be up on the balcony for the opening bell. They represent the diverse interests that are making certain that these markets are orderly. They cannot, nor would they want to. Dick Grasso, the chairman of the exchange, has made it clear. If people want to sell, they're going to sell. And this is a market, and it's a free market. That's precisely what has to be preserved here. But they are working together with the Fed, the Treasury, with the clearinghouses and all of the firms, the brokerage firms, and specialists here on the floor to make certain that whatever investors want to do is carried out, traded in an orderly manner. And that's the most important thing that we'll see today, irrespective of whether there is volatility or a market that sells off or trades higher. Paula?
All right, Lou, we look forward to talking to you all morning long. I wanted to point out that you will be joining us at the opening of the exchange and filing reports throughout the day. Thanks, Lou.
Thank you.
And Lou mentioned the chairman of the stock exchange, the New York Stock Exchange, Dick Grasso. He will be our guest in the next hour, and we hope to ask him some questions that some of you may have on your minds this morning. But right now we head back to Atlanta, where Miles O'Brien is standing by with some of the latest developments from the investigation desk. Good morning again, Miles.
Good morning, Paula. The latest developments for you, recapping a little bit. Trading resumes this morning on the U.S. financial markets, as Lou was just telling you. They have been closed since the attacks Tuesday by the suicide hijackers, longest closure since the Depression. The confirmed death toll now reaching 190. As the search and rescue operation enters a sixth day in New York City. There are 4,957 people still missing in the rubble of what was the World Trade Center. Still considered a rescue operation, however. At the Pentagon outside Washington, 2 people confirmed dead. 186 are missing and presumed dead. President Bush has returned to the White House after a weekend at Camp David, a weekend of strategy, planning meetings, and coalition-building phone calls. On the eve of the stock market reopening, the president expressed full confidence in the U.S. economy, said it's time for Americans to go back to work. All the major airports except for one, Reagan National Airport in the heart of Washington, D.C., are open this morning. It remains closed, concerns because of its proximity to Washington, D.C. landmarks, but many airlines still have cut back their flight schedules. Things were running at about 2/3 their normal capacity yesterday. New regulations in effect will make it advisable for passengers to arrive a little bit earlier than they expected to. And let's send it back now to Paula in New York.
All right, Miles, we're just beginning to understand how different the work environment is going to be today as people struggle to even get into the area. A bunch of the arteries south of here that would take you into Wall Street are still clogged with staging areas for the rescue operation. Nevertheless, people are going to use creative thinking to get to work today, and I am told that thousands of City Hall and government building workers and many folks in the financial district will be given paper face masks to protect them from the dust and the debris from Ground Zero, where the World Trade Centers once stood. I'm going to check in now with Bill Hemmer, who joins us from outside the New York Stock Exchange to give us a preview on what those workers are going to find if they are successful in getting back into their offices, if those offices even exist. Good morning, Bill.
Paul, well, good morning to you. You mentioned the commute here. The word of the day thus far is patience. We're talking to a number of people coming off of the Staten Island ferry here, getting into lower part of Manhattan and really trying to work their way through a maze to figure out where they can go and where they cannot go at this point. Also, if you can tell at this point, the air down here is still very smoky and very dusty. We've seen a number of people walk up and down Broad Street here wearing masks, paper masks, to cover their mouth from that very dust and smoke. You mentioned the other paper masks inside the New York Stock Exchange. We are told that 5,000 will be available for workers and traders inside the New York Stock Exchange today. More importantly, though, we've seen a number of people come by here carrying American flags, wearing ribbons, and wearing lapel pins as well to express their patriotism and their solidarity as they try and get back to work and some sense of normalcy today. It will be extremely difficult. The workers and traders here indeed had family and friends inside the World Trade Center, and for a number of them, it's the first time they have been back to this part of New York City. Let's talk more about it now with Bob McCooey. He's the CEO of Griswold Company, a trader here in New York. Good morning to you, Bob.
Good morning.
First, on the emotional side, how does it feel for you coming back here? I know you were here this weekend, but also seeing the others stream in as well.
Well, it was a very somber commute this morning. There were a lot more people who were coming in this early and following the chairman's advice and others' advice to come in early and get down here just so they can get through the checkpoints. And I never realized that my New York Stock Exchange ID would become the dog tags of war, but suddenly we're going through a very tough time down here, and it's going to be emotional on a lot of people. And I think the opening this morning is going to be truly emotional for everyone.
Before we talk about trading today and which direction the market may or may not go, have you talked to many others?
Oh, yes. I've been in constant contact with all my people, with others who do the same thing as I do. I've been in contact with the chairman's office as kind of a conduit with a lot of the other independent brokers on the floor. And my wife thinks I had about 1,000 phone calls in and out of our home in the past 4 days. So it's been truly an amazing experience trying to coordinate so many things from a remote location.
We're less than 2.5 hours away from that opening bell. What do you anticipate?
Well, I anticipate from a trading standpoint a lot of volatility, but from a human standpoint, I expect that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be quite upset. There are people who are not going to come in today and may never return to Lower Manhattan. I think that the market is better than these people that did this to us, and that the emotion will allow us to get through this, and the fortitude that we have as American people will allow us to succeed.
Thank you, Bob. I noticed the tie, too. Bob McCooey from Griswold Company this morning. Best of luck to you today.
Thanks very much.
Also, throughout the city of Manhattan today, we have reporters staked out a number of locations. Michael Oku is at Ground Zero, just about 2.5 blocks from the World Trade Center. Also, CNN's Martin Savage is talking with commuters getting off the Staten Island ferry. And Richard Roth parked outside the Brooklyn Bridge this morning. Gentlemen, good morning to all of you. Let's start this morning with Michael Oku. Michael, good morning.
Bill, good morning. You know, as we enter the second week, the catchphrase is a return to normalcy. And in fact, that's exactly what New Yorkers and Americans are trying to do this Monday with the opening of the various financial exchanges. But as New Yorkers awake this Monday morning, they will no doubt return to the nightmare of last Tuesday, made all the more palpable by this plume of rising smoke, which continues to billow out above the ashen, twisted steel and metal of what was once the World Trade Center. 4 million square feet of real estate has been leased by businesses since the attack, but there's no escaping the fact that 4,957 people are still missing, 190 of whom have been confirmed dead, 115 of whom have been identified. Rescue workers say they continue to find more body parts than bodies, and that in fact the rate at which they are finding parts is increasing. They say they stop occasionally during their sometimes 20-hour work shifts listening for sounds, but for days now they say they have only heard the sounds of their own breathing and their excavation. They've removed at this point 22 million tons of debris. The police commissioner says that fires still rage within. Back to you.
Kaloku, and being over there all day yesterday, one can really see the absolute grim task before the workers over there, and sometimes it's hard for the television images to exactly capture what's taking place, but indeed it is very difficult and very grueling. We talked about the commute this morning. CNN's Martin Savage by the Staten Island ferry, which is again up and running this morning. Marty, how are things thus far?
Morning to you, Bill. Usually the view from Staten Island here of Lower Manhattan is pretty spectacular. It still is, but for all the wrong reasons. As you mentioned, the Staten Island Ferry began its service at 6 o'clock this morning for the first time since the World Trade Center attack. Normally they have about 4 ferries running. They would do about 104 trips a day. That schedule has been altered somewhat. There are only 3 ferries that are operating today. And normally there would be about 700,000 people that use the ferry service to make their commute. It remains to be seen if those numbers will hold up today. It is about a 25-minute run or 5 miles to go across the New York Harbor to Lower Manhattan. A lot of those people who were boarding the ferry today work in the New York Stock Exchange. Almost all the people that we spoke to said that, yes, they are concerned, even fearful about going back to work. And one striking thing to note, it is the pathway of the ferry service that goes directly by the devastation of the World Trade Center. Many people will remember the friends that are no longer taking the commute with them today. Bill?
Marty, thank you. To Manhattan's Lower East Side, another check of that commute today and how people are trying to work their way back into the city. Here's CNN's Richard Roth at the Brooklyn Bridge. Understand ferry service working there, Richard, for the first time in a number of years. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Bill. Pedestrian traffic very slow here on the famed Brooklyn Bridge heading into Manhattan. As you know, car traffic has been shut off, though we have been seeing a fair amount of vehicles, presumably city emergency types, headed across this bridge. Behind me, you're looking at Brooklyn and the access way to get onto the Brooklyn Bridge to walk across into Manhattan. It's normally, of course, a great view and now greatly diminished without those trade towers. However, joggers and runners tell us the pedestrian traffic is dramatically slow. Quite a different story last Tuesday after the explosions when many people jammed this bridge as one of the escape routes out of Manhattan. But right now, very small amount of people here. Normally pedestrian traffic about 2,000 a day. I think a lot of people thought the bridge would be crowded with people walking in, but there's still subway access into New York, and cars can head over 2 other bridges into Manhattan here. We'll keep tracking it. Bill?
All right, Richard, thank you. Subway's the best way if you can reach there. We're also told here that a number of people coming to work a bit earlier today. That is indeed good advice, trying to figure out which way people are going here in Manhattan. Paula, one more thing that is quite striking in this part of the city. We're only about 3 blocks from the World Trade Center. You can still see the smoke and the steam billowing nearby. You can smell the smoke in the air down here. And for a lot of people coming back for the first time, this indeed will be an emotional time, an emotional day, and a very difficult time to come and try and return, again, as we mentioned that word, try to return to a sense of normalcy. Paula?
And I know from a first-hand experience that I had yesterday, Bill Hammer, actually getting into Ground Zero, what a challenge that will be. And I wanted to let you know and our audience know that a little bit later on this morning, I'm going to share with you some pictures I was able to take in areas that no journalists have been allowed into. They are not great pictures. I was not allowed to shoot any video, but I think they will give you an idea of how transformed that area is around what is left of the World Trade Center. There are some poignant scenes of firefighters leaving messages for each other on Tuesday, showing them where individual battalions were, where they actually wrote things into dust that had built up and grime on windows that were left on some of those adjoining buildings, and we'll show that to you a little bit later on. Thanks, Bill. Right now I head to Washington, D.C., where Madeleine Albright, former Secretary of State during the Clinton administration, joins us this morning. Thank you very much for being with us. Good to have,
Good morning,
have you
Paul.
along. All right, let's start off first with some of the latest developments. We know that Pakistan's top spy and a former ambassador to Afghanistan have personally delivered a demand to the Afghan government to turn over Osama bin Laden or face military action from the United States. How do you think the Taliban government will respond to that demand?
Well, I think it's very hard to tell how they'll respond, but the fact that the Pakistanis did this is very important. They have been an important link to the Taliban and have given them kind of a sense of security, and the fact that they have gone in and done this, we'll have to see the results, but I do think that it's important that they did it, and I hope that the Taliban listened to them.
As you know, there is great sensitivity about what kinds of phraseology is used. We are told that it is demand, and yet Tom Mentir yesterday from Islamabad, Pakistan, says over there it is very much perceived as an ultimatum. Which do you think it is?
Well, I think to the Afghans, to the Taliban, I think it should be something that is made very clear to them that they face a serious threat in terms of military action. I think that I don't think the words are that important. I think the point here is that action is demanded and everybody is watching, and it gives the Taliban one last chance here to join the rest of us in fighting terrorism.
I know earlier on you mentioned the importance of Pakistan getting involved with this. Yesterday, I interviewed Dr. Abdullah Abdullah of the Northern Alliance, who is the leader of the opposition against the Taliban. He is warning America not to trust Pakistan. He says their government is just trying to buy time. Now, Secretary of State Colin Powell came out after that and said the United States does trust Pakistan. Should the United States trust Pakistan?
I think we have to watch everybody that we are asking to work with us in terms of their actions more than their words. I think we have to understand that this is going to be very complicated as it moves out into trying to get support from other countries. And I think that the diplomatic work that is going to be required here will be slow, tedious, difficult, and absolutely necessary, as each of these countries that have stated their support are going to be using various nuanced words or trying to figure out exactly how to support. And so Secretary Powell has got a huge job ahead of him, and I think everyone should try to be helpful in that regard.
One of the things that Secretary Powell also mentioned yesterday is that an executive order that came down in 1976 under President Ford, which prohibited assassination, is now under review. If that executive order is changed in any way, how will that change the diplomacy involved here?
Well, I think that if one states that we are now in kind of a war situation, in many ways that order doesn't apply anyway. But I think that there needs to be a review of all of this, and the other countries need to understand that the United States has been attacked on its own territory and that we need to take the appropriate action. The most important thing here is to keep our eye on the ball and understand that we are involved in a long-term situation where terrorism needs to be dealt with across the board, and that today is very important psychologically. You've been talking about the opening of the market. I think it's essential for Americans to invest. We need to invest in America. The rest of the world needs to see us doing that. And this is an important day in that regard also.
You're talking about the layers and layers of complications involved here, and Secretary Rumsfeld said yesterday this is not a campaign that's going to be over in days or months. It will be years. Let's say for a second, and I hate to deal in hypotheticals, but I think this is a critical question. When you have the U.S. government calling Osama bin Laden the prime suspect, let's say that U.S. and its allies are able to find him, bring him to justice, or they end up killing him. There are many people out there that say that that won't stop this terror. Who else do you have to get?
Well, there clearly are other people involved in this, and people have talked about getting the head of the snake and trying to disconnect the dots and make sure that the leader of it, if indeed it is Osama bin Laden, is taken care of. But the bottom line of why everybody's saying it's going to take so long is that there are other people obviously involved in this in different countries and different places generally. And I think the hardest part about this for all of us is going to be the fact that we'll have to have sustained effort, that there won't be just kind of one clear victory, that there has to be an effort by all to keep working on this, and that it's a very complicated and long-term prospect. And that's the hard part. There's a lot of support now, I think, and clearly a great sense of patriotism, and we're going to have to try to figure out how to sustain that over a protracted period of time.
So what will President Bush and his leaders of his administration be up against in keeping these coalitions they're presently building intact? I know yesterday someone indicated they really are looking at creating a number of different coalitions.
Well, I think that we're going to base a great deal on existing alliances. I think the fact that NATO came through so strongly in invoking Article 5, which basically says a hit against one is a hit against all. We will go back to traditional friends and allies, and then there will have to be kind of retail diplomacy, where Secretary Powell and those who work with him will have to make sure that each of the countries fulfills what they have said privately or publicly to him, and it will have to be sustained day after day. I know that, for instance, during the Kosovo War, I had to talk to my fellow foreign ministers every single day to make sure that the alliances and agreements stayed in place. And so it's very heavy-duty retail work.
One final question for you. I was speaking with someone who was with former President Clinton over the weekend, and he expressed to her his frustration and expressed to her how perhaps you had gotten within 5 minutes of actually getting Osama bin Laden. Did you actually get that close?
Well, we worked very
to getting
hard on
him
this.
delivered?
Well, Paula, you know, after the embassy bombings, which was my worst day as Secretary of State, we worked very hard to try to get him and came close, and I think that it is unbelievably difficult and frustrating, and I think people need to understand that it's not the lack of will that the U.S. has exhibited over time on this, but the difficulty of trying to do this. And so obviously it's very frustrating, and we need to support President Bush and this administration in trying to continue what we started, was the fight against terrorism.
Madeleine Albright, always good to see you. Thank you very much for your perspective this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Paula.
And right now I wanted to give you an idea of what downtown Manhattan looks like this morning. For the first time, you're looking outside of the outside facade of the New York Stock Exchange, where the opening bell will ring in just about 2 hours from now, and we will be covering that live. You see workers coming to work with American flags. You see this throughout the city. You can't drive down any street in Manhattan without seeing storefronts covered basically window to window with American flags. I noticed yesterday when I was in this area that even the large vehicles involved in the cleanup and rescue efforts had either American flags attached to antennas or taped onto the windows. There is great concern about the level of fear U.S. investors might have today, but there are a number of regulations that are going to be eased that will allow American companies to buy back their stock and show faith in the value of their companies. And Lou Dobbs will be with us throughout the morning to help us all better understand what impact this is going to have on stocks that are being traded today. Let's go back to Washington, D.C., where John King rejoins us with some more information. Hi again, John.
Hello to you, Paul. As you discussed the opening of the markets up on Wall Street, a great sense of anticipation and, yes, anxiety here in the nation's capital. President Bush and his senior economic team working closely with the major banks and major brokerage firms on Wall Street, trying to make sure there is not bad news, terribly bad news in the markets today. The administration also reaching out to other governments around the world, asking them to keep an eye and cooperate with the United States on the strength of the dollar. And in the Congress, bipartisan discussions about some sort of an emergency package to get the economy going again. Key members of Congress talking about additional government spending, also possibly another round of tax cuts. But I want to bring Major Garrett into our conversation now over at the White House, because, Major, as all these discussions go on and as the President prepares to meet with his economic team today to look at the numbers and the early word from Wall Street, a great deal of this is also psychology as well, is it not?
A tremendous amount of it is psychology, John, and the President has tried, and some of his advisors who fanned out on the Sunday talk shows on Sunday tried to create a very strong sense of underlying confidence, not only in the country itself, but its short-term and long-term economic prospects. Let me give you, before we get more deeply into that subject, a little bit of information about the President's schedule today. Not only will he have that economic briefing, of course, another national security briefing and more updates on the diplomatic front. We're also told he's expected to get a rather full briefing today on the reservist call-up. Some 35,000 reservists called up. President due at some point today to receive a full briefing on exactly what that will entail. I can also tell you, John, that over the weekend, senior administration officials began to become increasingly concerned about violence committed against Muslim Americans. And there's a debate within the administration about how best the president can strike a note against that. That's being debated now. We can probably look forward to something from the president sometime this week on that topic as well. But getting back to our original topic, the topic of psychology, the president returned to the White House Sunday afternoon from the Camp David retreat, where he spent a better part of the weekend focusing on military options. White House advisors thought it was very important for the president to also strike an optimistic note on the eve of the reopening of the stock market and a return to some degree of routine in the United States. The president said very clearly the long-term future of the country, economically at least, is very, very bright.
People have declared war on America, and they have made a terrible mistake, because this is a fabulous country. Our economy will come back. We'll still be the best farmers and ranchers in the world. We're still the most innovative entrepreneurs in the world.
A very close eye on Wall Street and, as you said, John, in continuing negotiations with Congress, not only about tax cuts, not only about stimulus spending, but also there's a very strong push in Congress to protect the airline industry, which does appear to be in a certain degree of distress. Administration working on all those fronts. John.
All right, Major Garrett at the White House, thank you very much. Now back to Paula Zahn in New York.
Thanks so much, John. Once again, we are almost to the minute, 2 hours away from the opening of the New York Stock Exchange. This is what that area looks like. Folks dressed up, holding their American flags, coming into work for the first time. A lot of folks tried to get in their offices yesterday and couldn't, but the cleanup effort has been so strong and inefficient. That's why you're seeing the scene here today. We will bring the opening of the New York Stock Exchange to you live, followed by some of the silence that will come thereafter to honor those who lost their lives not far from here. We're going to take a short break now. Please stay with us.
The search for life and loved ones continues as President Bush promises victory against terrorism. For complete coverage, stay with CNN.
A typical car insurance agent is on the job during regular business hours. On the other hand, Geico insurance professionals are on the job 24 hours a day. Geico, a 15-minute call could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
I didn't want mail.
You don't have to sacrifice service to save money. Geico, a 15-minute call could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Hi, I'm Lori Farkas for Dish Network FYI. Did you know that one of the neatest parts of your Dish Network system is right in your hand? It's your remote. Check this out. Did you know you can watch one show and browse through your program guide at the same time? Just hit the Browse button and browse. Simply click up or down and check what else is on. If you find something better, just switch to that show. It's a remote control that keeps you in control.
This is CNN.
Good morning. It's 7:30 on the East Coast. We are only 2 hours away from the opening bell on Wall Street, an opening bell that will be watched with much anticipation. I'm Miles O'Brien at the CNN Center in Atlanta, now checking the latest developments in America's new war. A high-level Pakistani delegation is now in Afghanistan with a message from the U.S. to the Taliban government of Afghanistan: hand over Osama bin Laden within 72 hours. New York financial markets reopened today for the first time since the terrorist attacks on Tuesday. President Bush is calling on Americans to go back to work today after a weekend of mourning those killed in the attacks. And 2 new arrest warrants, sealed warrants, have been issued for material witnesses in connection with the attacks on New York and Washington. That brings the arrest total to 4. Or at least the warrant total to 4. And New York Governor George Pataki has called a special session of the state legislature today to consider a package of anti-terrorism laws. Now to Paula in New York.
All right, thanks so much, Miles. I'm back there. There you go. We wanted to give you a preview of what might happen later today when the stock exchange opens. I know you heard some of what Lou Dobbs had to say, and joining me right now is Andy Sewer from Fortune Magazine, who has also a very good idea of what you might expect. Welcome.
Thanks,
good to have
Paula.
you with us. So this clearly is historically one of the most anticipated openings of the market.
Absolutely. It's historical. The world is watching, and you have to remember that global markets have never been connected like they are today. Also, over 50% of American households own stock, so the world is watching.
And I think Lou cautioned us all not to panic about what happened in the overseas markets overnight. But when you hear a statistic that the Nikkei, the Tokyo market, hit an 18-year low, that can't make you feel real positive about what your investments may yield you today here in the States.
Well, that's right, Paula. And I think we shouldn't be surprised if the markets do drop here. It's hard to understand or hard to see a scenario where they don't drop a little bit. It's going to be a crazy day. Very high volatility, high volume, and no one really knows what's going to happen today.
And yet the bottom line is that you have a network of very powerful heads of financial institutions coming together trying to prevent a sell-off. Describe to us exactly what they're doing to prop up faith in this system.
The Securities and Exchange Commission has changed some rules allowing companies to come in and buy stock to shore up their shares, the price of their shares. They're allowing companies to buy stock in the first 30 minutes of trading and the last 30 minutes of trading, something that is usually forbidden. They're letting them do that. They're letting corporate executives come in and buy. There's also jawboning going on with regard to short selling to prevent that from going on a lot today. On the other hand, if companies and investors and professional investors want to sell, say, airline stocks, which I think will be under pressure today, that's going to happen, and investors have to expect that.
Well, you heard those stories over the weekend when was it Continental talked about furloughing 20,000 people,
yeah.
and we know that these airlines lost anywhere from $150 million a day to $267 million a day since the terrorist attacks last Tuesday.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, airlines, insurance companies, they'll be under pressure. It could be that defense stocks, construction company stocks could be bought up. We really have no idea, and there's shares that are linked to bond trades, to trades overseas, to derivatives. There's so much volume, so much stuff going on today. It's going to be very wild.
A very powerful message was sent by Warren Buffett last night at Berkshire Hathaway when he said basically he thinks there are going to be some good buys in the market, suggesting the American consumers they might want to check out some new stocks today.
That's right. And of course, there have been email campaigns over the past couple days. Be patriotic, buy some shares of stock. That could happen. And it's true what Buffett was saying, that if you enjoyed or liked or thought a business was a good business last week, it still is today. I think we're going to see some wild trading today. We'll settle over the next couple days, and then we're really going to have to see how things go over the next couple months as we head towards October and November.
But the bottom line is that people should not panic.
Right.
And that's hard to convince folks who are watching how the overseas markets did.
Well, that's right. I mean, if there's anything to learn in these situations, panic selling never works. I mean, you sell this morning, you're going to have to figure out a way to get back in. And, you know, let the whole thing sort itself out with the institutional investors. A very good day, I think, for retail investors to sit on the sidelines.
Let's get into some of the minutia of what individual institutions are going to have to deal with today. First of all, a lot of companies can't even return to their buildings. They've transported their workers out to New Jersey in some cases, into Brooklyn. How will that affect the individual investor? Are you going to have a hard time getting through to your broker?
That's why it might be not a bad idea just to sit on the sidelines. Lehman Brothers, not trading in their ordinary building. Salomon Brothers, not in their ordinary building. Merrill Lynch, same thing. If you try calling your broker and get a busy signal, don't be surprised. It's really a great idea to just sit back and watch. It's going to be a wild ride today, Paula, and it might be a great idea to just watch it.
One last question for you. There's a great deal of concern, of course, about all the trading records that might have been lost in all this tons and tons of debris. Is there a permanent record anywhere of trades people might have executed last week where the paperwork could have gotten lost in the World Trade Centers?
It is possible. I mean, you see the tremendous amount of paper that was blown all over the city. It was really tragic. My understanding is, from talking to CEOs and prominent people on Wall Street, is that 99.9% of the stuff was backed up in computers in Colorado, in New Jersey, in Connecticut. And so at some point you'll be able to get a statement. You're going to be able to figure out where your account is and your trades are okay. But you do have to be a little bit patient here. don't try to get the information at 9:30 this morning and expect your broker to get it to you. I mean, we're all going to have to bear with things a little bit here.
Andy Serwer of Fortune Magazine, we look forward to having your expertise with us throughout the morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Paula.
Right now I'm going to check in with Bill Hemmer, who continues to stand by outside of the New York Stock Exchange, where many thousands of New Yorkers are just beginning to show up for work. What are you seeing now, Bill?
Indeed they are, Paula. People continue to stream in down here, and I can't tell you, the dust and the smoke in the air still reminding a lot of people what happened last Tuesday, and for many of them it's their first time back. We talked to some people in line going through security checkpoints at this time. They say it smells like Tuesday. It smells like death. That's a bit of the attitude we're picking up right now. Let's bring in Anthony Alvarino, who's just walking by here. First time back, Anthony?
Yeah, since Tuesday morning.
Okay, you're a trader on the floor?
Yeah.
How do you feel coming back?
There's no words to describe it. It's terrifying. It's devastating. I've lost a lot of friends, and it's just a terrible feeling.
Do you think people coming back to work in this part of Manhattan are prepared for what you're describing to us emotionally?
I think some have an idea. We dreaded it all weekend, but we knew we were going to have to come back. I had to
think it can be said enough is the friends that you lost and the family members who are lost as well. There's an incredible amount of intellectual capital that went down in those buildings as well. How does this market respond when you know that fact?
I think initially it's going to be very volatile, like everybody has said all weekend, and we're going to have some tough couple of days ahead of us probably, but all in all, I think when we get opened and do what we have to do, we're going to be all right.
All right. Have you talked to friends, and if so, what are they saying?
Basically the same thing. They just, nobody can believe that the World Trade Center is not there anymore. That's the biggest thing. You just can't believe. Those towers are not there, that they came down, and we were here when they came down. It was unbelievable.
I talked with one guy going through security at this point. He says it smells like Tuesday. It smells like death. With the smoke in the air and the dust still around here, the reminder is still obvious and clear. And the other thing, Anthony, that I think really strikes people, we're only 3 blocks from the World Trade Center, and everybody can see that site when they come down here.
That's true. That's one site you're always going to see, and it's always going to bring back that feeling of Tuesday morning, especially when the second plane hit. That was probably the most scariest part.
Well, listen, I'm going to let you go. The security is extremely tight today. You're going to have a long wait to get inside. Best of luck, okay?
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Paula, I can tell you after walking up the street, for our viewers, the New York Stock Exchange, up the street about a block on the left-hand side with an enormous American flag draped across the front facade that was put up over the past few days, again, as a symbol to remind people of the strength of the financial markets that will be kicking off again in less than 2 hours' time. Also want to pass along to you some of the other reaction just picking up from people coming back to work today. Some are saying, hey, listen, it's time to get back to work, and some are suggesting it is happy to see familiar faces. You know, a number of people who, when those towers went down, they described the situation as chaos. And in addition to that, people just scattered and went in numerous different locations and directions. And to see people once again back here, for many folks, that was indeed a happy sight. We have some videotape, obviously, of people coming back. American flags are being carried by many folks. Hugs are being exchanged, again, as a symbol of warmth and emotion that continues to be expressed down here. The other thing that I think is quite obvious is the security detail. We're seeing dogs go through bags laid out on the sidewalk here. Dog sniffing is indeed being a top priority at this point. And the other thing, security detail, just trying to get into the exchange. Normally they say to take about 10, 15 seconds to clear security. But what we're seeing from our perspective, I don't know if we can take our cameras up here again, it might be a bit difficult past those Con Ed trucks there, the electricity trucks here. But there are hundreds of people who work inside, traders and employees, waiting in line, several hundred people deep. It's going to be a long, difficult task, not only trying to get inside, but also trying to figure things out. Some people told us that they wanted to get here early to make sure their workstations were still okay and that the computers were up and running. But Dick Grasso, the chairman, says, don't worry, things are working and things will work fine when we get underway again about an hour and 45 minutes from now. Paula?
I'll tell you, Bill, one of the things our producer, Kathy O'Hearn, and I witnessed yesterday in going into some of these buildings that are right at Ground Zero was that many of the lobbies have been turned or transformed into supply areas. And in many cases, there are still cots basically lining, you know, the major first floors of the buildings. So a very changed landscape that New York workers have to get used to and adjust to this morning. Thanks, Bill. See you a little bit later on this morning. Back here in New York City, I am joined by Victor Lauger. He was one of the very first uniformed personnel on the scene last Tuesday. He joins us from our building today. Sir, I very much appreciate your coming in. I know you didn't want to be up here on the roof with me because of the very painful reminder of what you've been through. Tell us where you were when you got the call on Tuesday morning. Victor, can you hear me? Apparently Mr. Lauger can't hear me. Victor, can you hear me? All right, we're going to try to come back to that because Victor, I think, probably has one of the most complete accounts you will hear of what it was like when people were being evacuated. I know you have heard some accounts where people describe an orderly evacuation from the Twin Towers. That is not what Mr. Lauger experienced, and what he has to say is well worth listening to. We're having a little problem with that audio. Meanwhile, let me go back to the picture of the New York Stock Exchange. I wanted to alert you to the fact that at 9:30, of course, the markets will get underway as usual in one of the most anticipated opens in U.S. history. All the financial gurus taking every step they can take to make sure there isn't panic in the markets today. A bunch of regulations will be eased today, allowing companies to buy back more of their stock than they usually can to show faith in their institutions. And Lou Dobbs, our own Lou Dobbs, and Fortune's Andrew Sir will be with us with their insights all morning long. One man that many of you across the country have become quite familiar with is the mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani. The man never goes to sleep. He holds constant news conferences to bring people up to date on what we are looking at here in terms of the rescue operation. And Candy Crowley now files a report on what he has accomplished so far. And I think the television gods are not with us this morning.
A smile on his face, a tux on his back, and escorted a Brooklyn bride down the aisle. He was making good on a promise he made several weeks ago to the mother of the bride, who told him she had lost a son, a husband, and a father within the last year.
I asked her how she can bear it, and she said because she feels the pain of it, she allows the pain to happen, but then she focuses on the good things that are left in life, like her daughter's wedding. And that's what you have to do, she said. You have to focus on the good things in life.
For a city that's endured 5 days of bottomless grief and endless agony, focus on a good thing seemed like the right thing. But then Rudy Giuliani's been doing a lot of things right.
He's such a strong man. I think he carries everybody with his strength.
There are rays for his honor in nearly every corner of this vast, aching city. They applaud as he walks by now, a salute for a guy who seems never to sleep and nearly always to know the answer.
Basically, what the medical examiner needs are toothbrush, hairbrush, items, personal items that would contain cells, hairs that you can use to do DNA analysis.
He's giving the public information as he gets it. He seems to be very thorough and on top of things.
Within hours of the Twin Tower attacks, Giuliani had twice addressed his city, shaken but steady, with a gut instinct for what needed saying.
He asked the people of New York City to do everything that they can to cooperate, not to be frightened, to go about their lives as normal. Everything is safe right now in the city.
He has really just been an inspiration of leadership and of stability and made us all remain calm and comfortable here.
Term limited, the mayor is in his final months. After 7.5 years, his exit has been, to now, singularly ungraceful. Captured fairly efficiently in a short exchange with the press last June over questions about a messy private life.
Don't be a jerk. Thank you. I said don't be a jerk.
Tenderness, caring, and empathy have not been hallmarks of his tenure until September 11th.
And people should know that they're not alone, that there are a lot of people suffering with them, there to help them and support them.
He's comes across very, very caring and very sympathetic, and he's
And very sincere?
Yeah, and very sincere, and he's very certain.
He has been known as a mayor who made the city work with a tough, no-nonsense approach. Criticized as combative and uncompromising, this week he was praised for it.
One of the best things they can do to show how strong we are and how terrorists can't cower us is not to be coward.
For a city like New York, we need a tough mayor like him, no matter how you look at it.
Politically, Governor George Pataki and Mayor Giuliani have never cared much for each other, but they have bonded over their care for this city.
For our governor and our mayor for being with us at every step along the way.
You would not be surprised to know that on the street they're saying they wish Giuliani could run for mayor again now. And perhaps he will run for something again soon. But whatever happens, this much remains. In New York's worst hour, Rudy Giuliani gave his best. When his city was in danger of crumbling, Rudy was a rock. Candy Crowley, CNN, New York.
What kind of beer you got? Food?
Anything else?
Haydn's Cello Concerto in C major.
Which performance? Gorski, Yachting, or Chin?
How's that possible?
Our jukebox is every performance by every artist of every piece of music ever recorded.
This is the technology that makes it happen. This is Riding the Light. Quest.
Refinancing your mortgage may be easier than you think. Just log on to Ditech.com or call 1-800-71-FIX. Today's low fixed rate with 0 points is only 6.750%. With interest rates lower, now may be a great time to get cash or use the equity in your home to consolidate bills. It's smart money from Ditech.com. Apply online or call us at 1-800-71-FIX.
One energy company had the idea to change their entire fleet of global tankers to safer ones with double hulls, committing to it before anyone else and finishing 16 years ahead of the industry's deadline. Conoco, think big, move fast.
There is a venture capitalist out there with hundreds of millions of dollars for technology firms. Startups, expansions, firms with new ideas, all in a friction-free business environment. Why would a venture capitalist work this way? Because they're convinced that technology is a can't-miss investment, and they'll do whatever it takes to help companies succeed. Who is this venture capitalist?
Pennsylvania.
AT&T's broadband technology can carry your company's voice, video, and data around the world at speeds over 2 billion bits per second. Buckle up.
You're looking at a picture of the new skyline of Manhattan from New Jersey. By all standards, a glorious morning here in New York City at a time when people are just getting used to the new reality of living here. You're looking at NASDAQ quarter, or actually you're actually looking at a picture, yeah, that is NASDAQ headquarters, right? The picture's kind of blurry out here, folks. Yep. And I just wanted to remind you that the New York Stock Exchange, of course, will open at 9:30. We will be there for the opening bell live. Lou Dobbs will be filing reports all morning long from there. You continue to see workers with their face masks, in many cases supplied by their employers, trekking off to work. A lot of these people were not able to get into their buildings over the weekend because of the smoke and the continued fear that some of the debris would fall from neighboring buildings surrounding the World Trade Center. Let's go back to Lou Dobbs right now for an update on what those workers might expect and what investors might expect later today. Hi again, Lou.
Hi, Paula. The floor of the New York Exchange is already taking on a certain vibrancy. Typically, the there is a typical day on a trading floor like this, the world's financial capital, it wouldn't even have a half dozen people on it at just before 8 o'clock in the morning. The posts here, the trading posts, are surrounded by many employees already. What is being set up, I think, as a very special day. These are a very tight-knit group of people who work here in this building, these traders and these specialists. They're wearing on their arms American flags, some on their backs American flags, red, white, and blue ribbons. These people, as I say, are friends, it's part of a club, and a very tight network of professionals. They feel deeply the sense of loss with thousands of people who have perished in the attack on the World Trade Center. You see these people who some days would be shaking hands with one another. This morning, they're giving each other hugs. And they are expressing their hope for an orderly market, and they're going to do their part. Make no mistake about it. These people would much prefer that this be an entirely different order of openings. Many of them because they really still are grieving for the loss in their community. But they're here because they believe it's their job, and they believe that it's the country's work that they're doing, and indeed they're quite right about that.
Lou, what is the concern about any technical problems that might arise today in what is expected to be a crush of business?
I've talked with Dick Grasso, the chairman of the exchange, Bob Zito, the executive vice president, a number of other officials here. They are absolutely confident that Verizon and Con Ed have moved in to reestablish connectivity, telephone lines, power lines, to restore water in this area. And as you point out, this is still an appropriate question, because here we are just about an hour and a half, a little better than that, when we open, and 2 blocks away, National Guardsmen are moving into position, providing security. The New York City Police Department, ambulances and fire trucks are racing down these streets a block from here. We're 3 blocks from the epicenter of last Tuesday's terrible disaster. So, nonetheless, all of the work that has been done here over the last 6 days, they believe will establish communications and restore the world's most important and by far its largest financial market to trade.
All right, Lou, thanks so much. We look forward to seeing you throughout the morning. I just wanted to let you all know there is nothing wrong with your television set if you were having trouble with the clarity of Lou's sound. There's just so much going on right now on the floor of that exchange that it is difficult for all of us to hear clearly. You see the president walking, I can't tell where he's walking to, but he's with Karen Hughes, who's a key advisor. He's walking into the White House this morning. And we expect various cabinet secretaries to be, if not on camera, briefing reporters, keeping in touch with reporters all day long, and if and when any new information arises on the investigation or any potential military action, we will bring that to you. We're going to take a short break right now, but when we return, we will be visiting with the head of the, or chairman of the New York Stock Exchange, Dick Grasso. In addition to that, you're going to meet a man who was one of the first uniformed officers called to the scene last Tuesday morning at 8:45. You will hear his dramatic story up next. Please stay with us. Our coverage continues.
For the latest developments as events unfold in America's new war, stay with CNN.
Are you one of the millions of American males who would like increased sexual energy? If you've been considering Viagra as a solution, consider something different. All-natural Enerx. Clinical studies show various ingredients of Enerx enhance sexual energy, increasing desire, performance, and satisfaction. Enerx is all natural with no side effects. With Enerx, you'll feel the increased energy within minutes and with no chemicals. We're so sure you and your mate will be completely satisfied. We'll offer you a 30-day, no questions asked, full refund. Enerx stimulates sexual energy by expanding the blood vessels, causing increased blood flow to specific areas of the body. Unleash the power of Enerx now.
Call 1-800-367-3614 toll-free, and it will be delivered discreetly to your home. Get results using the safe all-natural alternative, NRX.
This is my final plea. I am a gecko. Not to be confused with Geico, which could save you hundreds on car insurance. So stop calling me.
Geico. A 15-minute call could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
So you want to change your name? People confusing you with Geico, calling you at all hours? What name would you like?
Komodo Dragon, please.
Geico. A 15-minute call could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
When you have money problems, just going to the mailbox can be frightening. It's the same when the phone rings. You know it's another creditor. I thought bankruptcy was the only way out. And then I called Ameridebt.
Every day, Ameridebt helps more people with money problems. We're a nonprofit organization offering free consultations to consumers seeking to eliminate their debt.
Now my balances are dropping, and I only have one small monthly payment.
Call this number regardless of your situation. Ameridebt, helping America get out of debt.
Good morning from New York City. You're looking at a live picture of the